Well, hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Karen Bowness. I'm the Marketing Manager here at LiveHire and today I'll be the webinar moderator. Our topic for today is transforming talent acquisition, and we're going to take a deep dive into how you can streamline your people, processes and systems so that you can operate more efficiently. But before I introduce you to our panel, let's just do a quick bit of housekeeping and do our acknowledgement of country. We'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we meet today around Australia and the elders past and present. We acknowledge the ongoing connection that Aboriginal people have to this land and recognise Aboriginal people as the original custodians of this land. Okay, let's meet the panel first up. So to take us through that very important topic, we've got the amazing Sue Howse, CEO and founder of the Human Collaborative. Hi, Sue.
Hi, Karen.
Hello. We've got our amazing Zach Beaton, our Chief Commercial Officer from LiveHire. Hi, Zach.
Hi, everyone.
And of course, everyone knows Katie LePage, the Chief Talent Officer from Infinite Care. Hey, Katie.
Hi, all. Great to be here.
Thank you. And thank you to you, our audience, for joining us in your busy day. So we've just got a quick bit of housekeeping and then we'll get started. So as always, we ask you to save your questions or put your questions in through the Q&A button down the bottom of your screen there, which is this part here. So if you click there and just enter your questions there, that will be amazing. This session is being recorded and the recording will be shared with you within 24 hours of the session ending, along with anything else that's promised during today's session. When you finish up today, you'll be presented with a survey. If you could just take 5 minutes, probably only 1 minute to fill that out, that would be amazing. That just helps us to get ideas on topics, speakers, all kinds of things. If you'd like more information from Sue and the Human Collaborative, there's a box there you can tick for that. If you'd like more information from LiveHire or a demonstration, there's also a box you can click for that. So our agenda for today looks a little bit like this. We've done already with housekeeping. We're going to pass on to Sue in a moment to talk about transforming talent acquisition. Then she'll pass directly over to Zach, who's going to talk to you about how LiveHire can help you to transform your TA function. Then at the end, we've got plenty of time for live Q&A. So I'll just stop sharing my screen and give you a brief intro to Sue while she gets started. Sue Howse is the CEO and founder of the Human Collaborative. She has over 25 years of global experience in human resources and workforce solutions. She brings a deep expertise in aligning businesses and talent strategies across the entire talent lifecycle, from workforce strategy and planning to talent management, acquisition, retention, and development. Known for her ability to identify and leverage talent trends, Sue has a proven track record of driving alignment between business goals and workforce strategies. Welcome, Sue.
Thanks, Karen, very much.
Over to you.
Over to me. Well, welcome everybody. Good morning, good afternoon. I just had a little sneak peek at everyone that's on the call, and it's so wonderful to see many, many names that I know, and I know that others on the call all know each other. Many of you do. So that's really exciting. Thank you. Thank you for coming back and being willing to listen to me and understand the work that we're doing. And there's some ex-colleagues, clients and dear friends as well, and some new people too. So really excited to spend some time in LiveHire. Thank you for this opportunity. And Katie LePage, we'll get under the bonnet with you shortly, but I'm going to spend a little bit of time now just providing everyone with an overview of the Human Collaborative. I'll get into that in a moment. What we and how we work with our clients. I think when Karen approached me about coming in, having a discussion with everyone today, it was really around how we as a business use an integrated talent model to support organisations build their future alignment from their business strategy down into their talent strategy and talent operations. So I'm going to talk you through that today. And the best way then to bring that to life is via a company scenario, which, again, I mentioned Katie a moment ago, that Katie and I will spend some time unpacking the work that the Human Collaborative did with Infinite Care the work that LiveHire has done with Infinite Care, but also more importantly, the successes that Katie's been able to achieve and drive forward, particularly in this last, I think it's only been 12 months that you've been there, Katie. So I'm looking forward to spending some time with you on that today and having a good discussion. It's great to have a theoretical approach, which I'll talk through with you guys, with everyone today, but we'll bring that to life in that company scenario. So be patient. We'll get to that, folks, as we proceed through today's session. As Karen mentioned, there's a Q&A. I know many people in industry, and no one's afraid to ask questions. So please do that, and then we'll get to most of those as we can as we run the Q&A session later. So who are we? We're a small business. As Katie mentioned in my intro, I've had 20 plus years, or it's actually closer to 30 years these days, in the talent space. And the small team that we are have all worked together on and off through the years, anything from sort of 5 years to sort of 18, 20 years. So our business is small but mighty. We have deep expertise in talent acquisition, talent management, talent mobility, workforce planning, and contingent workforce. So when you think about all of the remits that's on the radar of, I guess, executives, but most definitely chief people officers, heads of talent in organisations these days, we cover the breadth of that. And we do that in a structured way as we consult and work with our clients. And we also leverage our network of experts. One of the things that we're really, I say passionate, but very clear on, is where our expertise start and stop and how we leverage our network to do work with our customers. And in fact, just recently with Infinite Care, I've referred someone else into Katie's boss, Rebecca, for a really bespoke piece of work that needs to be done. And that's the power of the human collaborative, the network we have and the reach that we have to do that. So I don't want to dig too much deeper on that, but needless to say, if there's something that's squeaky broken, or you need some support, or you've got a mission to transform, chances are that our team and our business can support with that. So reach out if you could. That would be fabulous. Okay. Let's have a look at how we actually do that with our customers. So none of this, I think, on the screen for most of you on the call will be much of a surprise, but we start from the top down. We understand, or try to understand as best our customers can help us, what their business strategy is, look at how do we align that to the talent strategy, and then we work through the advisory parts, and then we look at the operations within a business and understand quite specifically that top section. What's working there? What is it that you understand about the business strategy? And how do we make sure we can put the right plans in place together to build out that talent strategy and the workforce planning? I'm just going to pop to the next slide and discuss this in a bit more detail. So in our experience, whilst there's been, I guess, progress and maturity in businesses being able to understand the talent enablers to execute their business strategy, many companies still really struggle with this. And I guess depending upon your level of experience and your time in the workforce, let's say, you may have different levels of understanding of the company that you work for, what their business strategy is. We also find from time to time that the interpretation of the business strategy can be deciphered quite differently, even at an executive level. So much of our work starts with either an executive or a number of executives on a leadership team to really understand what the horizontal requirements are in a business strategy. Things like what are the service products that are being taken to market, what needs to be accelerated, where the innovations are taking place, what countries you're located in, do you need to move into different locations? A whole bunch of pieces of the business strategy that without the right talent plan and talent strategy in place is very, very difficult to execute on that business plan. And we've seen the world's best and worst business plans and business strategies. And in fact, some of the more simplistic ones and some of the more fundamental ones make the most sense and give us the ability to unpack those very nicely. And particularly when we work with growing businesses, helping them understand that not having a 3-year plan is actually not a bad thing. How do we help them build that as they go and ensure that the talent strategy can be aligned to that? And then, of course, we work with enterprise as well, organisations that got a 2-year, a 3-year, a 5-year plan or a 5-year strategy, and then we work with them to really roadmap out in building the talent strategy, how that they can build a multi-year plan that has got levers, that has got scenarios and can change as the business strategy or the business plan might change as well. So that's the first part of the work that we do with our clients. And then assuming that you can quantify that and assuming that it's possible to identify the talent enablers for the business strategy. This is where it can start to become a little bit more complicated. I think everyone that I've spoken to in the last 2 or 3 years in particular, and I know some of you guys are on the call today, so thank you for joining. There's a lot of interpretations of what either a workforce plan or a talent plan or a demand plan looks like. And often when we start to work with customers in this part of our work, they're actually not ready for a multi-year talent plan or a multi-horizon strategy. In fact, some of our clients, it comes down to the basics of what is a demand management plan? What types of resources do you need in what locations doing what type of work? And then some have got much more mature capability where we'd be looking at migrating skills over a period of time and developing new ways of working and understanding how talent can actually accelerate or be barriers to growth and success as well. So there's definitely no one size fits all here and no cookie cutter approach. But what does come after assessing a company's readiness for workforce or talent planning is how to assess where the gaps might be. And there are a variety of different ways to do that. If I reflect on some customers that we've worked with lately, and many of you on this call have had different human capital management tools, whether it's in either really big infrastructure ones such as Workday or SuccessFactors, or whether there are others there. I think many people go to assess what the technology capability is within their ecosystem and try to make decisions from a tech perspective. But our advice to a client is understand your workforce first, understand the maturity of the skills and capability in that workforce, and then determine what level of technology or automation or skills mapping or skills inventory you're actually ready for. Hence the reason of looking at demand management versus workforce planning or strategic talent planning. Again, so there's no one size fits all there, but what we do get to at this point in time is where is the gap from where the business might need to be in 6 months, 12 months, or 2 years' time? And then how do we start to assess that gap? How do we start to look at what are the skills and the capability that are required for the business strategy execution? And then what choices do you make post that? And this is where I'll just click through to talk through these. Guys, many of you would have seen or used this terminology in the past, and it's becoming more commonplace within our sort of profession and our orbit. For companies to decide the build, buy, and borrow plans that they need to put in place, or the strategies that they need to put in place. I think the one that's probably accelerated the most in the last 18 months is what is the automation bot strategy? And this is about what tasks can be automated, what functions within business are going to need to transform. Because in understanding that, it actually starts to inform what the actual humans in your workforce, the skills, the types of employment and worker types you need to bring into your business. So without understanding that automation strategy, I think that you could kind of leave some value on the table, or be in a position where you're hiring for the wrong reasons, or you're not understanding the business, how the business is going to change. So I think that it's really important to understand what the organisation plan is by way of task automation and the use of automation. Because in order for new ways of working to be embedded within a business, one of the things that I think is probably the most at risk that I see within businesses now is expecting that the skills development of incumbent workers will automatically keep up to speed with the pace of change of automation and technology. And I think for those of you that were at the ATC last week, I know that some of you on the call were there as well, the Australian Talent Conference, there's quite a lot of dialogue there around how do we know that our workforce skills and capability are going to accelerate at the pace we need them for new ways of working? Do we know that our capability within an organisation can actually cope with the automation? Do we have as leaders in business skills development opportunities for our people to know the new ways of working and be able to work in different ways moving forward? So I think that's a really key element for organisations to understand, and how long your journey is to automation and how fast you're going to make changes within the business. Because the build strategy, and I'd see some people on the call here, and if I look at your careers, I won't call anyone out, but there's a few people that are here that I've seen your career as talent acquisition manager to talent manager to GM take across that talent mobility and talent management role, which I think is becoming a lot more prevalent as talent leaders in organisations. You need to be able to elevate and broaden your expertise and experience, and being clear on what the whole of workforce plan is really critical to that. And the succession and the development of your workforce and the skills development and mobility is definitely a part of that. Anyone that sits in a TA role these days, I would say that, a primary view, if not responsibility, is understanding the incumbent workforce capabilities and the development trajectories, so that you are looking to build your own internally and manage employee development, employee engagement and retention. And the next step to that is, what is the buy strategy? So what is it from a talent acquisition perspective? If you think back up to the talent or workforce plan, one of the key things that we work with our customers on is defining for them what an employee profile looks like within an organisation and what the non-employee profile looks like within an organisation. And particularly when you're looking at the use of contractors, consultants, temporaries, gig workers, service providers, there's a whole range there. Our advice to our clients is that the use of non-employees generally is for two reasons. One, for capability. If you don't have the capabilities in your business you need today and you need to inject those fast. And the other one is for surge in capacity. And Katie will talk about that a bit. I know the work that you've been doing within Infinite Care, looking at that TA and contingent workforce, using that and balancing that. But if that's not clearly defined within organisations, and this is common in many businesses, it means that managers that have responsibilities for hiring people don't often know which pathway to choose. Typically, they'll choose the path of least resistance. If infrastructure and structure is not there for them to have a mature talent team or talent acquisition capability to guide them. So really understanding of that talent plan, what the build, buy and borrow plan is fundamental to designing any talent acquisition function or a holistic talent management function within a business. And we often work with our clients on the borrow piece. There's absolute clarity that when you use agency suppliers or contractors, that they generally come from a standard supply chain, where you've got agency suppliers or independent consultants that are known to you. And then you look at the top end where you've got service providers or consulting organisations, they're typically quite structured as well. But the area we advise our clients to look at when it comes to non-employees is the part that sits in between agency and service providers. The barriers to entry for people to set up their own business and consult and advise is significantly low. But many companies don't have the mechanism set up internally to contract those types of people into their business, and also probably don't even know the risks of that or the benefits of that. And often probably spend too much money. They don't have the right contracts in place. So, one of the pieces that me and my team are really passionate about is helping customers understand what the 4 Bs are. And I know that there's a 5th B, which people are talking about, and maybe a 6th B, but I think we've got enough Bs at the moment. But I think the point there is, for those of you that are in careers in, in growth in talent and up to talent managers and talent acquisition managers, I really urge you to look across the holistic landscape of your workforce. Depending upon your industry sector, of course, there are different trends that we're seeing accelerate for the use of non-employees or the balance of non-employees to permanent workforce. So I suggest everyone on this call, if you're not starting to think about that, I'd urge you to, and happy to share some more thoughts around that. We call it the invisible workforce. We need to raise it to the surface. And it's just as important as what your automation and succession planning and development plan is. Your talent acquisition and your contingent workforce plan are equal as important. So I can't see anyone at the moment other than you, Katie. So I don't know if anyone's asking questions or everyone's dialed out, but I'm assuming this is all making sense to people. So I'll just keep going. And I haven't heard from Zach to tell me otherwise. So we're just going to keep moving, guys.
All good, Sue. Keep going.
Excellent. Thank you.
Oh, we've got some love hearts.
Whoever that was.
There we go.
That's beautiful. Thank you, folks. It's always interesting talking to a screen, isn't it? So then this is where the rubber hits the road down the bottom, right? So this is where we really love working with our customers of what's going to work for them within their organisation. So once you've got a clear understanding of what the talent plan is or the workforce plan and the type of workers that you know you're going to need to bring into your business, what do you do next? How do you structure that? What type of people do you need? How do you look at the right processes? And what's the technology ecosystem that you need to put in place to underpin all of that? Now, my very short answer to all of that is it depends. It depends on many things, and the way that we approach this type of work with our clients is to understand what level of maturity they have within their current talent acquisition function within their business. And I say the word function because it might not be a well-developed and like a centralised team. It could be decentralised. And if I look at some of the work that we've done with, many organisations in the last 5 years in particular, we've pretty well seen it all, but no recommendation or solution is exactly the same. But often what we do is we're working through, the business strategy and the strategic intent of the organisation is understand whether if there's a requirement that we think potentially looking at outsourcing some of your operations from a talent acquisition perspective might be something we'd recommend. We really want to understand whether outsourcing and partnering is a strategic capability within a business. So that's really important, because what we will often do with some of our clients is provide them scenarios around, if you looked at, say, an RPO provider or a recruitment solutions provider of some sort to outsource to, we'll be able to outline the features and benefits and risks of doing that. But we also make sure that we provide a balanced approach to, if you're going to build and transform your talent capability yourself internally, also what are the benefits and risks in doing that. And there are definitely trade-offs for each. One of the things that's really important to us as a business is our independence and our broad understanding of the market and different solutions and models, so that we can genuinely bring scenarios and options to the table for our clients. And it's predominantly a very iterative approach to how the future could look together. And then from there, we look at what are the people capabilities need within a talent team today and moving forward. There's some pretty cool tools out at the moment as well. Again, at ATC last week, I was looking at some great tools there around capability mapping for a talent team and what the talent team's requirements are going to need to be in 12 to 24 months from now. I'm not saying again that tech's the answer to that, but there's some ways in which that we as leaders in our industry can start to look at how do we not only support the development and the capability of the organisations we work for, but the talent teams that support those as well. And that comes down to the structure and people that are in place. Process and tech are intrinsically connected. Often when we start to work with businesses that maybe don't have any tech or have got limited tech, we often get the response of, oh, we can't produce any data because we don't have anything, but we get to find anywhere where we can't extract something that's meaningful to start to make some database decisions. So whether that's there is a HR system of some sort, or there might be some statistics we can pull from turnover, from hiring numbers, for the attrition, the tenure tradition. So when people leave the organisation, there's definitely a way to go hunting and go and mine for data and information within an organisation, as well as looking at current processes and ways of working. So from that, we then work with organisations to build recommendations and roadmap for the future. And typically our roadmap would be a minimum of 12 months. Sometimes they're 2 to 3 years, depending upon, again, the level of maturity of a business. And that pulls together those talent operations pieces around what is the structure today, what do you need to move it towards, what are the people capabilities today, and how do you migrate the skills or develop or insert additional skills if necessary. If there's a decision to outsource for reasons that are relevant to the business, we then partner with clients to look at how to help them run a procurement activity for maybe a service provider or technology as well. Again, there's no silver bullet and no one size fits all when it comes to the work that I guess myself and the team do. And as I said earlier, if we identify through our diagnostic or discovery period that there's other elements in the realm of HR or people that require support, we'll always raise that with our key sponsors, and then they can leverage the benefit out of our insights and experience far beyond the work that we might be either commissioned or in scope to do as well. So that's a lot of information. I love talking about what we're doing and presenting, but one of my fails is that I can never remember the next slide. So Katie, I'm just going to click it, team, and see what comes up next. I actually can't remember. Okay, here we go. Yep, here we go. This is a clincher for me. Now, having had 20, 30 years working in the talent and HR space, both on a service provider side, so I had 18 years, selling MSP, selling RPO solutions, and working with customers. There are definitely 4 things that I think are universal drivers of business cases and business change. And I know that many people on this call would probably have the same perspective, most definitely. But I think the reason why this is important to point out, as leaders in your industry and experts in our industry and field, a big part of the work that we need to be able to do is to create the case for change. And creating business cases and cases for change means that you have to manage and navigate multiple stakeholders and their requirements and their priorities. And I find that through the years, probably one of the areas that I think people in our industry need more focus is on business case and raising the case for change. We'll talk about that, Katie, as well. But these are the 4 areas that, in my experience, are the most relevant. I was going to present them. I'm just going to bring them up on the screen for you. Cost, quality, risk, and efficiencies and productivity. So if you think about you and your role in your business and you're trying to drive a case for change for a whole transformation or a new technology or even some new headcount or some structure changes, whatever else it might be, typically these are the 4 areas that you need to hit on in every scenario that you're talking to your chief people officer about, you're talking to your CFO, your CEO, or other executive sponsors driving buy-in for change. So what is the cost or value? Cost being true cost. So what are we investing in or what are we taking out? So cost savings. And then what are the opportunity costs that if you don't drive the change that you're instigating, that you will have left on the table. From a quality perspective, I think, as we all know in our industry, the access to talent and talent with the skills that the business needs or the teachable capability the business is going to need in the future is absolutely critical. Gone are the days of major sort of spill and fill programs in organisations, notwithstanding that companies are always going to need to right-size their business. Being able to mobilise fast to get access to great talent is going to become more and more critical. The experience that the users have, both internally and externally, is of paramount importance. And quality from a continuous improvement perspective. in order that you can continue to demonstrate or that what you're driving by way of a transformation project or the insertion of some new technology is going to have tangible continuous improvement outcomes. And also, if you can quantify those with a monetary value, even better, most definitely. The third area is the risk lens, risk from a compliance perspective. We talked earlier around the worker types in organisations, and that's really critical to understand the risks and profiles of those, cyber, and then from an efficiency and productivity perspective, being really clear on how the case for change you're bringing to the table will create efficiencies, enhance productivity. How do you collaborate for new ways of working to create those as well? All of those things are absolutely critical when you're looking at case for change or business case as well. I went through that really fast because we could spend, a half-day workshop on that, but obviously we don't have the time for that, but I'd love to with anyone else that would like to discuss that further. So I'm going to pause for a sec, just catch my breath, move to the next slide. And I'm going to introduce you to the delightful Katie LePage. Katie and her team were also recent recipients of an award at the Internal Talent Acquisition Awards in Melbourne last month. So again, Katie, congratulations to you and your team.
Thank you.
Katie's the TA manager at Infinite Care, a fabulous client of the Human Collaborative and also LiveHire. We've been working with Infinite for a couple of years. In fact, we started the integrated talent model with Infinite nearly 18 months ago and have worked through a series of work with Infinite, and Katie joined last year. And you can see what's on the screen there, the level of detail within the Infinite Care business, aged care business, and continue to expand the footprint quite significantly across not only the Eastern Seaboard, but the plans for Australia holistically in the next 5 years as well. Katie's had a 20-year career, has got a lot to offer the organisation that she works for, but is an industry passion driver and loves working within this industry as well and developing and leading others to move forward. So I'm just going to click through this, Katie, but when we started, when you started at Infinite Care, we're already in the process of implementing LiveHire. We're also already in the process of bringing together the talent operating model. There was a decision to keep that insourced and build the team and capability internally. The EVP was almost silent, right? The stories to tell were fabulous, but it hadn't been brought to market properly. You've done a significant alignment across employees and contingent, and you've got some pretty amazing metrics in place now too. So over to you. What are your thoughts around the TA op model and what you're loving about that these days?
Yeah, look, thanks, Sue. I mean, what I inherited from the work that you and Jamie done definitely set our team and our business up for success. Being new to the aged care sector, I was sort of going in very blind, to be honest. But one thing that became very clear to me was this whole speed to roster. So working in residential aged care and working in one of the most competitive candidate markets out there at the moment, the speed to roster and having resources across our 17 sites, on a very regular basis was absolutely paramount. And it was just something that was drummed into me from day one, is speed to roster, quality, continuation of care for our residents. And for me, it really sort of centered me back to probably my hospitality days of getting ready for service. I used to run 250-seater restaurants and turn them over three times a day. And, once you're at service and you have customers coming into your establishment at 12 o'clock for lunch, you are on for the next 12 hours. So for me, it was really about, okay, what were some of the decisions made before I arrived? And I'm pretty fortunate through my history. I've always led a whole range of tech solutions, configuring, exiting them out, going to market. So that whole space of, tell me the tech that we have agreed to, which was LiveHire at that stage, Referoo, which was our online reference checking tool, and then what was the plan that you and Jamie had really come up with, Rebecca, around that sort of northern light of where we needed to go. And it was absolutely transformational. It was like, okay, you want to achieve this within 3 months? Okay, right, let's get our skates on. And for me, it was really learning to be in a whole new sector. I acquired a team of 10 straight away. We had over 180 vacancies that I had to oversee. Our processes certainly were not where they are today. And I think for me, it was really just starting to, take it into bite sizes and really prioritize. When you talk about metrics, you need data to be.
Can you go to the bottom 2 points here for me? What I want to highlight, Katie, is that you and your team are doing the advisory, the high-level advisory work to your business leaders that many people aspire to. The fact that you've got a talent operating model now that has good structure, good portfolio alignment, you are able to truly advise your business in ways that are different than where you were 12 months ago.
Yeah, look, we host a fortnightly demand meeting with all of our facility managers, state by state, including our state managers. And where we've taken that conversation is we now use our Power BI data that comes out twice a week around our unfilled shifts or our rostering across the whole portfolio. And I think what's really a bit of a step change of what we do that maybe, some of the listeners could adopt is we absolutely embrace the same language as our ELT and our operational leaders. If they're looking at turnover, they're looking at agency spend, they're looking at overtime, they're looking at unfilled shifts. That's exactly the data we use to inform those conversations. And our procurement team have done a fantastic job in right sizing our contingent workforce. So, when there's an RN needed at night shift because of sick leave, or we suddenly need an influx of kitchen staff to help out with an event, we don't get involved in that. We've got a really nice defined panel now that's very, very supportive. So we do all the permanent and casual sort of engagement across the portfolio. But we're in those demand meetings, we absolutely go facility by facility. What are we currently working on? We now mandate a minimum of 3 shifts per week to go to market. The reason why we do that is because we operate in highly competitive markets. We can't go to the market for an 11-hour shift. We can't go to the market for anything under 25 hours, really. So that's where the advisory comes from, is to use your own internal employees. Have you got any contingent that's knocking on your door to come and work with us permanently? So it's that whole range of advisory. And then it's really using those Power BI stats to really determine, are we actually over recruiting? Are we under recruiting? And what's more of the medium horizon leading into Christmas? We already know people are putting in their leave, so let's get more proactive and almost over recruit now, because we know, we're going to have slippage in some of our shifts, and we know the shifts that people don't want to pick up. So we try to really strategically target those as well. And happy to report our turnover is really, really reducing, and our time to fill is consistently 13 days, month on month now for over 8 months.
And I think if you reflect on what we talked about earlier around Infinite didn't have a technology in place of any sort, and they were all manual processes and using job boards and decentralized recruiting, to the visibility that you now have with your team, that you can genuinely advise your business in ways that you haven't been able to previously. That's kind of that bottom, that workforce metrics that matter, that you're in a position now with that visibility because of the maturity you've gotten to.
Yeah, look, I mean, I joked with one of my state managers this week that we used to be a McDonald's drive-through, and it was like a ticketing service. You'd come in and you'd ask for a large fries with that recruitment activity. And, we've all been there, whoever's operational, recruitment TA, we've all worked on Excel spreadsheets. We've all been dumped at the 11th hour. Here's 50 jobs to fill in 2 weeks. We've been there, done that. And I think that where I sort of call it out, and I don't really shy away from it. I'm like, this is not where we're playing now. This is not, we are very mature now. And even though, we've only been sort of operating this way for, less than 12 months, having LiveHire, using their AI, and their geofencing, we don't go to market for every single thing. Now we've got really deep talent pools. In under 12 months, we've got nearly 70,000 candidates now. And we really talk about talent as a holistic solution. They come to us for external recruiting, but they also come to us for advisory. They come to us for performance. They come to us for what's happening out in the candidate market, what's happening in the visa situation. And we're not shying away from actually challenging the thinking around talent. And you know, it's really nice when sort of I sit back and I have listened to some of my recruiters now and go, you know what, I actually don't think you need any recruitment. How about we talk to these 5 students that we just converted from an RTO and they're screaming out for work? How about I make the call now and we'll get them to pick up those additional 30 hours, and that whole solution's done and dusted in 2 hours.
To that, right?
Yeah. So, you know, they're like, oh yeah, that's right, we brought on 5 people, so let's just utilize them. So yeah, we've definitely come a long way, a lot more to do, but yeah, very, very proud of my team and very proud of working for Infinite.
Yeah, that's a great business. Can we you've hit on a few pieces, which is good because it's all relative to the conversation here. Let's just have a couple of minutes on, you know, your tech ecosystem and the journey that you've gone on. As you said, you started with Infinite. I think LiveHire was just pre-implementation, and then you came
just 3 or 4 months before me.
Yeah. And then you had a pretty key mission handed down to you to fix the timeline of onboarding and get people into the business faster. It's so critical for your industry. Tell us how that happened and the successes you've achieved there. Kind of a couple of these last two together,
yeah, definitely. I am mindful of time and giving people time to ask some questions as well. So yeah, LiveHire was our ATS selected. Never worked on LiveHire before. Tapped into my network before I started and got a bit of a feel for LiveHire and knew that it was a good piece of tech. So I was pretty happy with that. And then I knew that was a whole range of integrations and bolt-ons you could do. I inherited Referoo. So Referoo is our in-house sort of reference check, which you just do it by a status change and it's all integrated. And then we engaged Onboard Express to really provide that digitized solution for our onboarding. So to give everyone on the call a bit of an understanding, to come into aged care, there's a whole range of compliance and regulatory forms that need to happen. My team, I had 3 administrators at that point in time, physically sending out emails with up to 17 different documents. The candidates had to actually print out 5 of those, and it was a wet signature, scan them, send them back, and that was taking on average between 5 and 7 days. And quite often there was a 50% incorrect rate because it was the wrong information. By implementing Onboard Express as a standalone, we didn't have time to integrate it at LiveHire. We basically took that down to 45 minutes, and we're now 100% compliant. We move people through on a basically a 13-day workday cycle because our start dates are every 14 days. So we're consistent with that now. We've fully optimized it Onboard Express dashboard. So we have a lot of that pre-first day policies, procedures, information, experiences, humans at Infinite Day in the life of, different types of forms. How do you go about getting your NDIS, which is you have to have in our sector. So we've actually been able to really optimize the tools fit for purpose in the right stage. And getting that ecosystem. Then quickly within, I think the first month, I was pulled into a meeting by our head of safety. She wanted to turn on Sure Employ, which is now our online medical and physio assessments. That's done. And we also inherited Care Friends, which is a sector specific referral program, which means we have to load up all of our jobs onto this Care Friends platform. That's not integrated either. So we're now at a stage where our tech ecosystem, we've now worked out what is integrated, what works really well and seamlessly. And we're just actually gone live with My Interview, which is now our video interviewing top of funnel, which is fully integrated with LiveHire. So that the ecosystem is evolving, it's breathing, it's moving, it's really pushing the dial on how we deliver talent into our business in all of those different dynamics that you spoke about in your previous slides. So yeah, it's been a really great year. Very, very proud.
I think one of the things, and my gosh, this time always goes so fast, we're at 40 minutes, but one of the things I want to highlight here that many of us, I think, maybe know, but you've just sort of spelled it out, Katie, is that from a tech ecosystem perspective, there is no silver bullet, hence the word ecosystem. And I find that many businesses or leaders, they run too fast to integrations. Integrations are critical and drive further optimization and automation. But integrate at a point in time when it makes sense to do that. So I think you kind of said that by default, Katie, which is really lovely.
Yeah, 100%. And I think what has been one of our unplanned success factors is we've really heard the beat of the business. There's a lot of change fatigue out there, and especially when we talk about compliance, regulatory, commission, a lot of standards coming through our sector. You know, you really need to learn the art of when do you step back and take a breath and let the business breathe, and then when do you lean back in again. And I think we're very good at that breathing in and out, and when do we actually bring solutions versus what I call behind the curtain. We've already launched my interview behind the curtain for every single job family, but out into the business we've just picked the top 3 critical roles. We're now doing that strategically by training 3 leaders at a time, waiting till they're fully comfortable, they're doing the whole process properly, and then we'll go to the next 3. We don't have to go with pace because I'm very aware and attuned that my business is going through a significant change from a sector and a compliance perspective, and what we can do behind the curtain to pop up and deliver these solutions, you know, a little bit more proactively and in the beat of the business, I think takes us from a ticketing job in, job out to a true trusted business partner, someone who's a team that's really astutely aware of how talent internally can be a very big business driver and help us with our growth strategies. And we're launching into Melbourne, and it's going to be very, very successful. But as I said to my CEO the other day, I said, do not have any concerns about resourcing. We have this. You go and worry about other things.
Is like a streaks ahead from where the business was 18 months ago. That's amazing.
Yeah,
and you can see proud. For those on the call here, some of the, you know, the high level success metrics. I know that, you know, people frown at the use of the time to hire or days to hire often. I think I personally feel that it's still an indicator. It does, as long as it's coupled with other metrics around quality and retention and so on. But I think when you think about the fact that your speed to roster is so critical, making sure that not only do we hire the right people at the, you know, within the appropriate pace, but then you're also by default the right people coming in. You're not losing as many, as you said, the not only speed to roster, but the availability of rostered hours for people, that you want to be able to give them the types of hours that they want to work. Because you're around the clock, right? The doors don't close at an aged care facility, right? You're there 100.
No, and we're 24/7, and
Yes,
I mean we don't have a candidate issue. We just have a you know, making sure that we've got quality of hire going into our residents. You've got to remember too, we're a sector that we must have a certain number of registered nurses, a certain number of personal carers with our residents every minute, every day, every shift. So it's a completely different paradigm of where we have to get resources on deck. But at the same time, speed doesn't need to, you know, impact quality, engagement, experience, succession, leadership. You know, it's just doing it smarter and having that real, you know, open dialogue and coming to the table as experts in our craft, and knowing that our operational leaders are experts in running residential aged cares. That's not our jam, that's their jam. But our jam is bringing talent to the table and doing it as best as we possibly can, but being in a state with our tech, our process, our team, that we can pivot, turn, and be as proactive as possibly can to be able to support our business.
Awesome. Time flies when we're having fun, guys.
Absolutely.
I'm going to have to wrap it up.
Thanks for the chat.
I could chat to you all afternoon. I'm sure we got lots of questions coming through as well, but I'm going to hand back to you, Zach, for a couple of minutes, and I think you're going to facilitate a Q&A for us.
Yeah, sure am. So I'll probably just touch on.
Thanks, Zach.
Thanks, Katie.
Right. Thanks, Katie. And guys, please use the Q&A down the bottom to ask any questions that you might have. I'll pull up in probably a couple of minutes' time, and then we'll get stuck into those questions and get those answered. Anything we don't answer, we'll try and get out as part of the follow up from the webinar with the recording as well. So I think, you know, Sue and Katie have taken us through kind of the model, the approach. Great example from Katie, and we're you know, honoured to be part of that whole process and that transformation that Katie and the team at Infinite Care have gone through. And probably just pulling back a little bit and going, this can occur across industries and across organizations too. It doesn't. That's a specific example for Kate, which is fantastic. When we look at how LiveHire is used across, our variety of clients, and whether that's, from the smallest, 50 employees up to, 20,000 employees, we're seeing similar results. And that's all industries and all size, right? And this is consistent with what we've got, right? So results like, our meeting response time to communication from candidates, so speed to roster, Katie mentioned, is really critical.
Yep.
And that's obviously then impacting the, time to hire, right? Whether that's, time to fill, time to hire, whatever it is, from the point of when you're starting to engage with candidates through to getting them into a seat within your organization, having a system that allows you to really effectively engage and communicate and keep them warm through that process is really critical. What you then see is that candidates are willing to come back and say, yes, actually, I want to be part of another job, or I want to be part of another recruitment process. And that's where we see here is that 1 in 4 candidates will say yes when they're proactively reached out to say, hey, would you be interested in this particular job? And so building out those deep talent pools that Katie mentioned and building out that talent community is critical. Diversity is even more important to that, right? So we're removing kind of names, and it's the system's going through, and we're making suggested matches. We're using that AI to suggest candidates for roles or for talent pools, so that you can do some of that heavy lifting prior to then going, oh, actually, I have a job. I'm just going to go to Seek. I'm going to go to market, and then I'll start to field through the CVs from there. Obviously, that reliance on job boards and agencies reduced, lower cost to hire, faster time than the industry average, right? So this is what we're all seeing across all of our clients, and Infinity is a great example of that.
Yeah.
I won't touch too much on this. If you guys are interested in finding out a bit more about kind of how the matching process works within LiveHire, but needless to say, it's happening on both sides. Like, it's helping candidates as well as it's helping recruiters and hiring managers. And AI is critical to that. And the communication piece to SMS, building out those talent pools is really important. I'll touch just for a minute or so on AI and how we're seeing that. I know that's a big topic. I know at ATC, I know at kind of all of the different events and conferences, AI seems to be kind of the hot topic. We're no different to that, right? Like, we're incorporating that as part of the platform. But where we really want to use it, introduce it, is where it's going to make an impact on candidates and recruiters. And so things like enhancing of job descriptions, elevating that candidate matching in the intelligent resume analysis, helping candidates with their application and profile creation. So it's a faster, more positive experience, more accurate experience for them. Things like AI suggested interview questions based on the profile and the job description. So we want to really improve kind of speed and automation. We also want to improve quality as well. And so that's kind of the journey that we're taking as part of the AI process within the LiveHire platform. I'll pull up there. A quick snapshot, a couple of minutes on LiveHire. I'll move to the kind of the question box here, and please jump in down the bottom and ask any of your questions. And like I said, any questions that we don't have answered, we'll try and follow up as part of the recording and emails that go out post this. But I'll stop share and let's have a look at some of these questions. Sue, Katie, do you see any?
I've been reading them while you've been talking. Do you want me to just hit them?
Yeah, do you want to have a look?
Yeah, cool. No worries. Katie, maybe you have a look at question 2 there, and I'll answer question 1 while you do that, if you don't mind.
Yep.
Dennis, hello, Dennis D. Nice to see you. Thanks for your question. Dennis and I have known each other for a long, long time. Still trying to crack the egg, Dennis, on how to get executives aligned to. I think what you're asking is about the workforce planning and the worker types. I'm not sure. So what Dennis asks is, how do we break down the resistance at an exec level to allow these strategies of deploying the integrated talent model? Wow, that's a massive question, Dennis. It really does depend upon the level of maturity and the buy-in at an executive level. I think that as much as the pandemic has been horrendous as a society and globally, the acceleration of innovation and technology innovation is in our favour, and let's use that. But I also think that what I heard from a lot of executives during the pandemic was, I don't know who's in my business. I can't see them all. Now, whether they're employees or non-employees, the fact that executives needed to know that and couldn't make decisions for their business at that time, I think by default elevated the level of visibility that executives want to see. I also think that we need to keep it, to Katie's point, the level of conversation, the dialogue that is used needs to be at an executive soundbite, or the level that's required. But again, I go back to those 4 things: cost, quality, risk, and efficiency. If you're talking to a procurement stakeholder, it's possibly a slightly different conversation than it would be as a HR stakeholder. When you're talking to your CFO, when I think about a business case I've helped a client of mine work on in the last month, and it was presenting to the CEO and CFO. We were all about the monetary return, the return on investment, the 1 year, 2 year payback cost timeframe. So it really means tailoring your activity and your dialogue to the audience that you're wanting to influence or get outcomes from. Really longer answer than that, Dennis, of course, but that's a quick snap. I'm going to hand to you, Katie, for number 2.
Thanks. Yeah, no worries.
You can.
Thanks, Jane. Love your question. So Jane's asked, can you define time to hire and what does it calculate from and to? So Jane, what we do is, time to hire for us is when an applicant has formally applied, and then they fill out an online application form through LiveHire, where we've developed bespoke application forms. And then from there, we now bolt on My Interview. And if they complete a desk screen, they go straight through to do an interview. If they pass that, they go straight through to an interview. Our interviews on site are only 30 minutes. I know that might sound really short to some listeners, but to be honest, that's all our facility managers, our chef managers, and our care managers have. And we're really trying to equip them with really around that cultural fit, and talking about the roster. And because we then go into pre-employment checking, we can then go through to getting a contract raised, out, accepted in under probably 2 to 3 hours on average now. And then our compliance is now all embedded into Onboard Express. So that's what achieves our 13 days. And that's where we're at the moment. The other one from Kate, what are some of the other key measures of success for transforming a TA function into being a talent business partner? Well, I just think wrapping up what Sue said and what I've said is really starting to use the same dialect that executives and operational leaders want to see and hear from. So it's all about cost, time, performance, really experience, reducing turnover, reducing agency spend, overtime. And also too, it's using a lot of graphs, a lot of infographics that the analytics module does out of LiveHire to really tell a story. So data's great, but you have to tell a story. You have to articulate to an audience that's non-technical to the recruitment space, and you got to show them where your journey is and what are those touch points that they really want to know, and then a little bit of commentary. Try to provide that less is more, because it gives them the sort of the carrot to come back and ask you, so how are you achieving that? And boom, you've got them engaged, and then you can tell your own story in your own words.
Zach, do you want us to do the last one, or are you good?
Yeah.
Question is really about how do we gauge feedback from new starters, early new starters in the hiring process? My advice to clients is that you need to gauge it the whole way through, so the moments that matter. And if you think about it as a new employee, it's minus 30 days. Generally, it could be minus 14 days to plus 30, plus 60, plus 90. I think there's definitely a need to manage and to seek feedback on those touch points. There's often talent acquisition a call to account for attrition, when in fact, if the attrition happens after a certain period of time, it's actually not a hiring decision that went wrong. It's actually a culture and embedding that person in the workforce, which is a different ownership piece. So I do think it's very important to measure the moments that matter. But I think as talent leaders, you need to define what those moments are, and you need to be very clear on how you seek that feedback as well.
Yeah, and just addition to that, extending that answer out, I think that don't shy away from asking feedback beyond the recruitment. We do a little check-in through the recruitment process, but also after. And then we've also built in 7, 14, 28, 56, 90-day check-ins through automation bot surveys,
Mm.
and strategically asking different questions around settling in. Have you formed connections? How are you aligning to our behaviors? How are you feeling about training? So it's all of those foundational questions, but it's also then asking more around that connection behavior, because we know people will leave an organization if they don't align to the values and they don't feel that sense of belonging. So that's just as important as asking those transactional, how did you feel the process went, and so you have to round that out with behaviors and sense of belonging.
Yep. I think we're on time, Zach.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks, Sue. Yeah, we've got one more question, Ali. I'll reach out to you actually individually on that one, because we've got a business case playbook that we have and a template that I can
I'm
share
happy to
with
give
you.
some insights to that.
I was going to say, Sue, I know you've got a few,
Yeah,
and we can reach out to you separately on that one. But if anyone else is interested in that, please let us know. We might even send that out as part of the follow-up as well. So I know that's a critical
Fantastic.
part.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Glad to have a chat.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Take
have a good
care.
day, everybody.
Have a
Good to
great
see
day.
you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Katie.